Two trucks, same lot, same row, parked nose to tail like nothing's wrong. Both of them 2023 Tundras, both crew cabs, both dark gray, both sitting on about 50,000 miles. Same trim, near enough the same options. And the window sticker on one of them is thousands of dollars higher than the other. And when you ask why, the guy walking the lot with you gets a little vague and steers you toward the cheaper one, like he's doing you a favor. The difference isn't in the paint, and it isn't in the tires. It's in a folder in the glove box. One of those trucks got a brand new engine dropped into it under warranty at Toyota's expense with a repair order to prove it. The other one went in for the same recall. A technician clipped a listening device to the block, pulled the driving history out of the computer, decided the number one main bearing sounded healthy enough, and handed the keys back with a stamp saying the job was done. Same truck, same recall. Two completely different things happened, and the used market has quietly decided that one of those trucks is worth real money, and the other one is a coin flip somebody else is going to have to call. That's the story of Toyota trucks in 2026, and almost nobody is telling it straight, because Toyota holds its value is one of those sentences everybody repeats without checking. It's still true on average. It is absolutely not true for every truck with a Toyota badge on the tailgate, and a handful of them have taken losses over the past 12 months that would make a Ram owner wince. I've had my hands in a lot of these. I've watched the current generation come in with problems that shouldn't exist on a truck at this price, and I've watched the older stuff keep grinding along like nothing's changed. So here's what we're doing. 5 Toyota trucks that fell hard from 2025 into 2026. What specifically knocked the money out of them, and how much. Real figures, not vibes. And along the way, you're going to see one number that explains the whole thing, which is that while these 5 were sliding, the used market underneath them was going up. That's the part that should bother you, and we'll get to exactly who benefits from it. Before the list, one piece of groundwork because it's the yardstick I'm measuring everything against. Wholesale used vehicle values in the United States are tracked by an index built off auction sales, millions of transactions a year, adjusted for mix and mileage. As of the middle of this year, that index sits a bit over 2% higher than it was 12 months ago. Not a boom, but up. The floor under used vehicles rose while these Toyotas fell, which means every dollar you're about to hear about is a real loss, not a tide going out on everybody at once. Second yardstick, and this one's the running thread through all 5. A 2021 Tacoma. The old truck, the one before the redesign, the one everybody complains was slow and had a lazy transmission, is still worth somewhere around 80% of what it cost new. 5 years old, 4/5 of its money still in it. Hold that in your head, because the pattern you're going to see is that Toyota's old, boring, overbuilt stuff is holding like concrete, and the new, expensive, clever stuff is the part that's bleeding. That's not a coincidence, and it's not bad luck. It's a choice somebody made in a boardroom. Number 1, and it's the big one. The 2022 through 2024 Tundra with the gasoline V6. For 20-odd years, the Tundra ran a big, naturally aspirated V8. The last one was a 5.7 liter, and it was one of those engines you tell stories about. Heavy on fuel, light on drama, and it would go 300,000 miles if you changed the oil and left it alone. For 2022, Toyota replaced it with a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 called the V35A. More power, better numbers on paper, and a whole lot more going on inside. Not long after those trucks hit the road, engines started coming apart. The failure traced back to machining debris left in the block during manufacturing, working its way into the bottom end and chewing up bearings. In May of 2024, Toyota did the honorable thing and issued a recall to replace the engine, the whole engine, not a repair, in over 100,000 trucks and Lexus SUVs. Then it got bigger. Late in 2025, the campaign expanded again, covering more vehicles, some of them built after Toyota had already identified the problem and supposedly corrected the process. All in, the exposure ran to something like 270,000 vehicles. Here's where the money went. Toyota replaced roughly 70,000 engines and then changed the remedy. The remaining trucks, the majority of them, no longer get an automatic new engine. They get an inspection. A technician uses a device that listens for the resonant frequency of a distressed bearing and reads the engine control unit's stored driving data to see whether the truck's been worked hard or babied. If the software says it's fine, and you go home. Now, I want to be careful here because this is the part where I'm reasoning rather than reporting. I have not seen a clean, published, apples-to-apples study comparing what an engine-replaced truck sells for against what a software-cleared truck sells for. What I have seen is trade coverage, reporting that owners of software-cleared trucks are losing as much as $9,500 at appraisal, and forum after forum of people posting their numbers. One owner reported buying a Tundra new in April of 2024 for around $55,000 and being offered $37,000 to trade it in on a new Tacoma. Dealers have been reported turning trade-ins away outright because a used car manager cannot sell a truck he can't warrant and can't explain. And that's the mechanism, by the way. It isn't emotion. A dealership makes its used car money on velocity. Buy it, recondition it, sell it inside about 40 days. A truck that might need a 5-figure engine, might not, and can't be proven either way, is a car that sits. So the appraiser doesn't discount it a little. He discounts it enough that he'd be happy to own the risk, which means he prices in the worst case, and the worst case is a new engine out of pocket. Look at what that does on paper. A 2022 Tundra Hybrid Crew Cab has shed something like 38% of its value in 3 years. The top-of-the-range 2022 Capstone, which stickered near $78,000, is now valued in the low 40s private party. That's 45% gone in 3 years. On a Toyota truck, in a market where the average used vehicle went up in price. And here's the part that ought to make you angry on behalf of the guy who did his homework. The hybrid Tundra was never part of the engine recall. The hybrid uses the same base engine architecture, but the affected campaign doesn't cover it. Doesn't matter. The stink lands on the badge, not the build sheet. And the man with the hybrid pays for a defect he doesn't have. One honest note before we move on. If you look up Tundra depreciation right now on the big data sites, you'll find numbers that flatly contradict everything I just said. One of the largest of them still has the Tundra as the best holding full-size truck in America, giving up only about 21% over 5 years. Another says 26. A dealer blog quoted me 28.7. Those figures aren't lies. They're just averages that include a decade of the old V8 trucks, which hold beautifully, and they lag the current mess by a year or more. When sources disagree, I take the more conservative one, and I weight the transaction-level evidence over the model line average. In this case, the transaction-level evidence is people posting their trade offers, and it isn't pretty. Number 2. The Sequoia, and specifically, the loaded ones. The Sequoia is a Tundra with a roof and a third row, built on the same frame, using the same twin-turbo hybrid running gear. If you're the sort who wants to argue that an SUV doesn't belong on a list about trucks, fair enough. But the frame under it doesn't know the difference, and neither does the depreciation. A 2026 Sequoia Capstone stickers at over $86,000. 86. For that, you get real leather, walnut trim, acoustic glass in the front doors, massaging seats, a power folding third row, and a genuinely mighty powertrain. 437 horsepower and enough torque to make a boat ramp feel flat. It is a lot of vehicle, and I don't want to be sniffy about it. It's also a money incinerator. A 2023 Capstone, the first year of this generation, has given up about 30% of its value in 3 years. In cash, that's roughly $25,000, which is a used Corolla and a decent holiday, gone while you were doing the school run. And this is the trim level trap in its purest form. The luxury content on a Capstone cost $17,000 or $18,000 over an SR5 when it was new. On the used market 3 years later, that content is worth a fraction of that, because the second owner of a big family SUV is a value shopper by definition. Nobody hunting a used 3-row is paying a premium for open-pore walnut. They're paying for seats, tow rating, and a clean history report. What made 2025 into 2026 worse than the normal curve is the top end of the market softened. Big SUVs were the weakest major segment at auction through the spring. Fuel got more expensive, and Toyota kept pushing new Sequoia prices up. The base model went up about $1,700 for 2026, with a destination charge that's now north of $2,000 on its own, which sounds like it should support used values, and doesn't, because buyers just stopped stretching. Here's the practical bit if you own one, or you're shopping one. Check the spread. I've seen a 2023 Capstone with 40,000 miles listed at a dealer for around $66,000, while the book trade-in on that same truck sits in the low 50s. That gap is not the dealer being greedy, exactly. It's reconditioning, warranty, floor plan, and the fact that big SUVs sit. But it is a $14,000 canyon between what they'll give you and what they'll charge the next guy. If you're buying, that canyon is your negotiating room. If you're selling, that canyon is why you should be getting 3 offers instead of 1. Number 3, the Land Cruiser First Edition. This one hurts because I like this truck. When the 250 series arrived for 2024, Toyota did something people had been begging for. Killed off the $90,000 luxury barge and brought back a proper mid-size, boxy, locked diff 2-speed transfer case Land Cruiser starting in the 57s. Round headlights on the base 1958 trim. Hybrid 4-cylinder, 326 horsepower. Full-time 4-wheel drive standard. And then there was the first edition. $76,345, limited run, first out of the gate, loaded with accessories, and mechanically identical underneath to the truck costing $19,000 less. In 2024, people paid over sticker for them. Dealers had lists. 2 years on, that first edition books at roughly $54,000 trade-in. About $19,000 gone on a Land Cruiser, which is supposed to be the vehicle that laughs at depreciation. Meanwhile, the cheap one, the 1958, cloth seats, small screen, round lights, has owners reporting trade offers essentially equal to what they paid. There's a fellow on the forums who bought a 1958, put 20,000 miles on it, and got offered within spitting distance of his purchase price. Same platform, same drivetrain. The difference is that one of them was priced like a collector's item and the other was priced like a tool. What killed the premium was supply. And it's the least mysterious thing on this list. Land Cruiser sales in the United States went up nearly 700% in the first half of 2025 against the same period the year before. 700%. Every one of those trucks is a future used Land Cruiser, and scarcity was the only thing propping up the first edition's price. Once you can walk into a dealership and order one, and once the dealer is discounting a brand new 2026 by $2,500 to $3,000 under sticker, nobody is paying $70,000 for a 2-year-old one. I'll flag one disagreement in the data. You can still find asking prices above $70,000 for low mileage first editions, and coverage that treats those asks as evidence the truck doesn't depreciate. An asking price is not a transaction. It's a hope. Trade values and auction results are transactions, and they're telling a different story. Still with me? We're 2 trucks from the end, and the last 2 are where most of you actually live. Quick thing while there's a natural gap. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, subscribe. That's the whole ask. And it costs you nothing. Because number 4 is the truck sitting in more driveways than everything else on this list combined. And the reason it fell is not the reason you'd guess. Number 4, the 4th generation Tacoma, and I'm talking about the expensive ones, the TRD Pro and the Trailhunter. When Toyota priced these in 2024, there was an audible intake of breath. The TRD Pro landed at $65,395. The Trailhunter just under that, for a mid-size pickup. Now, you got a lot for it. Fox bypass shocks, an electronic sway bar disconnect, underbody armor on the Trailhunter, the Hybrid 4 making 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet. And those wild seats with the air-over-oil dampers built into the backrest that make you look like you're sitting in a fighter jet. Genuinely clever engineering. I've got no complaint about the hardware. The complaint is arithmetic. As I'm recording this, brand new 2026 Trailhunters are advertised in the low 62s, below their own sticker, with a few thousand knocked off before you even open your mouth. Leftover 2025s got cut by 1 to 3,000, and the very top of the used Tacoma market. Clean, low mileage, 1-year-old Trailhunters and Pros sits in the low 50s. So the man who paid $65 and drove it for 18 months is looking at a number starting with a 5 while a stranger buys a brand new one for $62. There's a second thing pressing on these, and it's mechanical. The 8-speed automatic in this generation has a service bulletin history for failures requiring full replacement, and I've seen the out-of-warranty figure quoted around $8,000. Owners have reported harsh shifting, slipping into second, hesitation off the line, some of it on trucks with barely a few thousand miles. There's a recall for front drive shaft constant velocity joints that can deform and break on 4-wheel drive models. There's a rear brake hose recall. There's a 12-volt battery that goes flat if the truck sits a week. And there's a huge software campaign covering hundreds of thousands of Toyotas where the instrument cluster can fail to show you your speed at startup. Now, the honest caveat, and I want to say this clearly because I know people are already typing. I cannot tell you how common the transmission failures are. Complaints and bulletins tell you a problem exists and that Toyota has a documented procedure for it. They do not tell you the failure rate, and no manufacturer publishes that. Most 4th-gen Tacomas are running fine. Mine would probably be fine. But used car buyers don't price probability, they price uncertainty, and every one of those campaigns shows up on a history report as a line item that makes a cautious buyer pause. And here's the running comparison landing again, harder than anywhere else on this list. The 2021 Tacoma, the previous generation, the one with the strangled 3.5 V6 and the 6-speed that never knew what gear it wanted, the truck the internet spent 5 years mocking, has lost about a fifth of its value in 5 years, somewhere around $9,000 total. The new one, the better one, the faster one with the hybrid and the disconnecting sway bar and the fighter jet seats, has lost more than that in 18 months. If you want a single sentence that explains why the used market behaves the way it does, there it is. Buyers pay for certainty, and Toyota spent 30 years building certainty and then sold it off a piece at a time in exchange for horsepower. Number 5, and this one barely qualifies, which is exactly why it's here. The 2025 4Runner. 6th generation, all new, same platform as the Tacoma and the Land Cruiser. When it launched, people paid whatever was asked because 4Runner buyers always do. Today, a dealer will take about $2,000 to $3,000 off a new 2026 without a fight. And I've seen a used 2025 SR5 with 23,000 miles on it advertised at essentially the same money as a brand new 2026 SR5 sticker. That's the early adopter premium evaporating in one model year. But it's still the strongest resale SUV in America by most measures. So call this what it honestly is, not a crash, a normalization. If you paid over sticker in early 2025, you personally took the hit. Everybody else is fine. Right. Now the part I actually wanted to talk about. Go back to that recall because there is a sentence in this story that costs owners more money than every other factor on this list put together. And it isn't a sentence about engineering. Toyota told those owners they were getting a new engine. That was the remedy. Whole assembly, out with the old at the factory's cost. And to Toyota's credit, they did it about 70,000 times, which is a colossal amount of money and a genuinely honorable response to a manufacturing defect. Then, with 145,000 or so trucks still waiting, the remedy changed. Now it's a technician with a listening device and a look at your driving log. If the block sounds right and the computer says you didn't beat on it, you're remedied. Same recall number, same letter in the mail. Completely different thing in your driveway. Notice what that actually did. It didn't make your engine safer or less safe. Your engine is whatever it already is. What it changed is who carries the doubt. Before, Toyota carried it and paid to remove it. After, you carry it. And because you cannot prove a negative to a used car manager, you carry it in cash every single time somebody appraises your truck for as long as you own it. Reported trade hits of up to $9,500. That's not a repair bill you can see coming. It's a bill that only arrives on the day you try to leave. And I want you to be precise about what the accusation is, because this is not a story about a cover-up. Toyota disclosed the defect. Toyota filed the campaigns. The engineering justification for the inspection is probably sound. Most of those engines genuinely are fine. And pulling 145,000 good engines to replace them with new ones you also have to build is an absurd use of the world's resources. I can defend that decision on an engineering basis. What I cannot defend is who paid for it. Because a remedy has two prices, the one on the warranty claim and the one on the appraisal sheet. Toyota controlled both, chose the option that lowered the first one, and the difference didn't vanish. It moved. It moved on to the resale value of trucks belonging to people who bought a Toyota specifically and paid a premium specifically, so that they would never be the one holding this kind of uncertainty. That premium is the entire product. It's what the badge sells. And the moment the bill came due, the premium was quietly handed back to the customer in a form he can't see, can't argue with, and won't discover until the day he needs the money. Nobody lied to you. Somebody just decided which of you two was going to eat it, and you weren't in the room. Here's the thing underneath all of this, and it's bigger than one recall. Resale value isn't a property of a machine. It sounds like one. We talk about it like it's a spec printed next to the towing capacity. It isn't. Resale value is other people's confidence converted into money. That's all it has ever been. A Toyota holds its value because 1 million people who never met each other independently concluded that the thing will probably start tomorrow. And that belief was earned the slow way, by decades of engines that didn't grenade and frames that didn't fold, and mechanics telling their customers, honestly, that they'd buy one themselves. That's an asset. It took 30 years to build, and it doesn't sit on any balance sheet. And the uncomfortable truth about an asset like that is that it can be spent, not deliberately, not maliciously, just spent a fraction at a time by 100 reasonable decisions that each made sense on their own. A more complex engine because the fuel economy rules demanded it. A cost target on a machining line. A remedy that costs less and is defensible. Each one fine. All of them together. And suddenly, the man in the driveway with the gray Tundra finds out that the thing he was really buying, the certainty, is the one part that wasn't covered. Good engineering isn't just a machine that works. It's a machine somebody can still trust in 10 years without needing a laboratory to prove it. That's rarer than horsepower, and it's worth more. And you can measure exactly what it's worth, in dollars, on any used lot in the country. So, the short version, in order. 1. The 2022 through 2024 Tundra with the gas twin-turbo V6, hardest hit by a distance. Whether it got a new engine or an inspection is now the single most valuable fact about that truck, and it lives on the repair order, not the window sticker. 2. The Sequoia in Platinum, 1794, and Capstone trim. About 30% gone in 3 years on the top trim, and the luxury content is the part evaporating fastest. Buy the SR5 and let somebody else fund the walnut. 3. The Land Cruiser First Edition, roughly $19,000 down in 2 years, while the base 1958 sitting on the identical chassis held its money almost perfectly. Scarcity was the whole premium, and the scarcity is over. 4. The Tacoma TRD Pro and Trailhunter, 65,000 new low 50s 18 months later, with brand new ones now discounted below sticker and a transmission bulletin history hanging over the whole generation. 5. The 2025 4Runner. Not a crash, the launch premium unwinding, and only the people who paid over sticker got hurt. Now tonight, 3 things you can actually do, and none of them take an hour. Go to the federal recall site, put your 17-digit VIN in, and read exactly which campaigns apply to your truck and their status. Then dig out your service records and find out which remedy you got, the engine or the inspection. If you got an engine, that paperwork is worth thousands of dollars, and it should be in a folder in the truck, not in a drawer in the kitchen. And if you're anywhere near trading, get 3 separate appraisals from 3 separate places before you ever sit down at a desk, and ask each one, out loud, whether they're deducting anything for the recall history. Make them say the number. By the end of the evening, you'll know precisely where you stand, which is more than the man across the desk expects you to know. And if you're on the buying side of this, understand what all of the above means for you. A Tundra with a documented factory engine replacement is one of the better value used trucks in America right now because it's priced with the market's fear in it, and the fear has already been resolved on that specific truck. One thing I genuinely like from you in the comments, and I'll answer as many as I can get to. If you own a 2022 to 2024 Tundra, post 4 things: model year, mileage, whether you got a replacement engine or the inspection, and the trade number somebody actually quoted you. Not what a website estimated, what a human being offered. I want to see whether the split I've described holds up across the country, because as far as I can tell, nobody has assembled that data anywhere, and between us, we could. And if you work the service drive or the used car desk and I've got some part of this wrong, the way appraisals actually get written, what the inspection procedure really involves, how your store handles these. Say so plainly. I'd rather be corrected in public than confidently wrong for another year. Subscribe if you want the rest of it, and there is a rest of it. There's a thread in this I deliberately didn't pull today about what happens to the trucks that got the new engines, where the old ones went, what came back apart, and whether the replacement blocks are actually different from the ones they replaced. I'm still chasing the answer to that, and I don't have it yet. When I do, you'll hear it here first. Until then, read your repair orders, keep your paperwork, and never let anybody appraise your truck when you're in a hurry.